Okay, good evening, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Thank you, thank you. I don't see anybody else joining. I think we'll start the session first today. All right, so we are in the last live interaction session for the NPTEL course on urban utilities planning, water supply, sanitation, and drainage. The course instructor is Dr. Devapratim Pandit, Associate Professor at the Department of Architecture and Regional Planning at IIT Kharagpur. I am Monica S. I am a research scholar at the same department. So, this is the 12th session we are having, 12th and last. We have two major means of interactions in this course. One is these weekly sessions, which have been hosted every Monday, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. for the past 12 weeks, including this one. So, during the session, what you can do is if you have any queries or doubts regarding what is being taught, you can, once the question has been addressed or discussed, you can raise your hand, unmute, and raise a query. Questions can also be posted in the chat box. We also have a discussion forum for the course. Any questions related to the live sessions conducted can be raised there. You can also raise general concerns there. The questions will either be addressed in the forum or in the next week's live session. So, since this is the last live session, I think from now on we'll be looking at mostly the discussion forum for any queries that are coming up, and we'll try to address most of them. For those of you who have been inquiring about the format of the exam, I hope you received the email about the format. I guess both MCQs as well as written type of questions will be there as part of the course examination. So week 12 was basically covering drainage and recharge. So we had the first two lectures focusing on groundwater recharge. The concepts covered were the need for artificial recharge, benefits of it, how do we plan artificial recharge structures, as well as some basics of fundamentals of artificial recharge structures. The second lecture in of the two lectures basically had artificial recharge techniques, surface spreading techniques, subsurface techniques, groundwater conservation techniques, and rooftop rainwater collection of groundwater. Right? So after this, we had three lectures basically on urban flood management and drainage plans, uh, which covered stormwater drainage, flood modeling, basic approach using GIS software, as well as a case study. The second lecture looked at 1D, 2D dual drainage approach, flood modeling using HAS, RAS, and case study. And the third lecture basically addressed stormwater management in general, and we saw a few basic underlying guiding concepts that can be taken up, such as water sensitive urban design, popularly addressed as WSUD, or LID, low impact development, or SUDS, sustainable urban drainage system. So we saw how all these three concepts are actually quite interrelated, right? They're not mutually exclusive. However, we usually take up one of these as the major focus area and then carry out interventions regarding drainage and recharge structures. Right? We also saw a case study on the same. So this live session will be having two major parts. The first half will be looking at assignment questions for the corresponding week 12 of the previous run of the course. Like mostly theoretical. We had one small numerical which will also be addressed. However, the second half of the session, I would like to receive your feedback on these live sessions, as well as it will be open for general doubts. Right. So Before we delve into the rest of the lecture, one major aspect for those of you who've been here for the last few lectures, I think it was week 9 lecture where we dealt with the formula for stormwater drain, right? Surface runoff. So the issue is there seem to be an inherent difference. There are two formulae that have been given. One is CIA by 360 and the other is 10 into CIA. So the issue has still not been resolved actually, and most of the textbooks have been citing CIA by 360. So unless and until any kind of clarification is posted further in the discussion forum, which I'm not sure when it will happen. So if that is not happening, I would advise you to use the respective formulae wherever it has been suggested, right? So for the problems that has been suggested by sir as 10 into CIA, use 10 into CIA. Or for those problems where we've used CIA by 360, use CIA by 360, right? 10 into CIA was basically used only when we were trying to design a combined sewer network, if I'm not wrong. So restrict the 10 into CIA for that part alone. However, please be look on the lookout for a clarification in the discussion forum. I'll try to get it clarified in the next couple of days at max. Sorry for this shortcoming from our end. That being said, the most conventional form of the rational formula is C into I into A divided by 360, right? So that's the original rational formula. Please be mindful of the units again. So in certain units, it's just CIA. We don't have a divided by 360, right? So please take these points into consideration. And if you have any other queries, please raise it in the discussion forum, right? So moving on into the questions for the day. Before this, any queries regarding this CIA part? I'll just repeat. So there are two formulae that have been given across the lectures for surface runoff calculation, right? Uh, so one part basically talks about Q is equal to C into I into A divided by 360. Please pardon my handwriting. And there is another lecture that talks about Q is equal to 10 into C into I into A. If you look at the content of this second lecture, it actually talks about how we are taking a 10-minute duration, minimum duration of the storm, right? So maybe that is why this 10 is coming into account. But so use this where problems regarding design of the maximum cross section of sewer design is used, and rest of the problems use this, right? Unless it is being clarified otherwise in the discussion forum. So please be on the lookout for for a clarification in the discussion forum. I hope we get this resolved soon, right? Also, before we delve into the lectures, were there any general queries regarding the week's lectures or assignments? All right, so let's move on into the
Yeah,
questions.
excuse me.
Yes, please.
I have raised two for this week assignment, two questions. Question number 5 and 7. Five, I guess one option is only one is correct. That is S. If you see question number 5,
One second.
and for question number 7, answer is 75 days, and we don't have any option. Might be I'm wrong, but you
One
check.
second.
Yeah.
Question number 5.
Only S is correct. Zeri skipping practice. You
No,
can
no.
cross.
There is another option that is correct.
No, if you see the lecture, we'll tell you the page number. 1 second.
You might have to interpret it a little differently, but 1 second. So this is essentially the line that is addressing, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So there is an option that is sort of that can be interpreted. So here microscale controls essentially address zero-escaping, right? It's been given, yes.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the other keyword is decentralized. So it will actually be scattered development also.
No, if you go back to the slide.
Hmm.
No, not the scattered development, but here it is written using cluster or consolidated development. So it's
So
just
yes,
opposite.
essentially no. So what are your where is it written? Cluster or consolidated development.
Above the zero skipping.
So these will happen actually. It's actually a decentralized model at each point. No, so these are micro scale controls, right? Which means they cannot be overall consolidated. There will be smaller clusters across the system. I agree that this line is mildly confusing, but this is the basic definition, right? So it uses so low impact development as such as a principle. We don't want to create a huge impact. Any kind of large scale infrastructure is going to create a huge footprint, right? So the very philosophy of low impact development is to go for something decentralized and micro scale. What they mean here is, say you have a interventions. I'll go back to the slide. Say you have a huge city. Wait a second. Say you have a huge city. What will happen is, say you have consolidated overall consolidated development will somewhat have a major infrastructure requirements such as a dam here, and then interventions throughout the river, right? But something like low impact development will probably have smaller interventions. Say you have an area here and there is a lake here. So this area's drainage will sort of be managed by just this lake. So it will be in smaller clusters, or you have a treatment plant attached, or this cluster is being dealt with separately. This cluster is being dealt with separately. So these areas are sort of decentralized and taken care of. So it is scattered development. Interpret it in the view of the overall philosophy of the. Am I clear about this?
Yeah,
But this is probably a bad way of putting it across. I agree. I mean, it sort of creates a confusion. What they mean is smaller clusters throughout.
yeah, you can just write in another way.
Yeah, yeah. I'll bring this to their notice.
And question number 7.
1 second. I'll just note it down.
Yeah.
And question number 7. Hmm. Okay. I'll solve a problem anyway right now, and then we'll look at the parallel numbers. Will that be okay with you?
Yeah, no
Solving the
problem.
yeah. So
Can you explain question number 3 as well?
question number 3. I think this is also directly from the slides.
Yeah, but it's very confusing. If I see all the option is correct, if I go with the slide and yeah.
What is the GIS slide? Yeah, I'll come back to this towards the end of the. I am not able to recall the slide number where this content is given. Alright, I'll check this and I'll get back to
Yeah, okay.
you. So let's delve into the week's slides. Right. Question number one: which factors affect the suitability of artificial groundwater recharge areas? A. Frequency of rainfall events. B. Infiltration capacity of soil. C. Suitability of aquifer systems for artificial recharge. And D. Geological information formations of soil. Sorry, geological formations of soil. Any answers? So right now we are looking at suitability of artificial groundwater recharge areas.
A, B, and D is A option.
Okay. Let's see. Any other answers? Okay, let's look at the slide that talks about this. So the first point, frequency of rainfall events. Yes, so we take climate into consideration, right? So we look at this spatial and temporal availability. So we, which is the frequency of rainfall events, right? So whether an area has high frequency of rainfall or low frequency of rainfall will majorly affect the suitability, right? If it is a low rainfall area, then we cannot look at recharge structures per se as the only major component, because the amount of water you are receiving itself is low, right? So rainfall alone will not be sufficient for recharging groundwater, correct? But when it is a high rainfall area, so what will happen is, again, recharge structures alone will not be sufficient. We'll have to handle excess rainfall also, right? The second aspect is infiltration capacity of soil. So yes, whenever we are looking at the suitability of the recharge area, we'll be looking at uh, all the aspects that pertain to the infiltration capacity, such as depth of soil, texture, mineral compositions. All of these will sort of determine how much water is going to go through and infiltrate into the soil, right? So A is there, B is there. Then C, suitability of aquifer systems for artificial recharge is also. So right now we are looking at suitability of the recharge area, right? When we are looking at suitability, the occurrence of potential aquifer systems and their suitability for artificial recharge is also something we need to take into account. Why? Because if an aquifer is not suitable, right, there is no point in going for artificial recharge in that area. So this is also something we need to take care of. And geological formations of soil. This is again basically looking at what is the type of soil and what kind of uh, is recharge possible there or not, right? So D is also an answer. So the answer is actually A, B, C, and D, right? Ms. Supriya, your answer will actually be relevant for the next question. So right now we looked at suitability, right? So let us look at the next question. Subsurface water storage capacity for artificial recharge depends on A. Water table contours. B. Depth to water level during the post monsoon period. C. Suitability of aquifer systems for artificial recharge. And D. Thickness of unsaturated material available above the water table in the unconfined aquifer. What do you think the answer for this is?
Now,
Okay, let's look at the slide. I'll tell you what the difference between the two questions is. So we are right now looking at subsurface storage capacity. So before this we were looking at suitability. Right now we are looking at storage capacity of aquifers. Right. So point number one, water table contours. Yes, we it will uh, depend on water table contours. Right. So the depth to water level during the monsoon post monsoon period. Yes, will depend on this. And D, thickness of unsaturated material available above the water table in the unconfined aquifer will also be part of it. Why is suitability not being looked at? So what we do is first we determine the capacity, right? We'll determine the capacity based on all of these things, and then the aquifer which has a low storage capacity will be discarded in the suitability analysis, right? So first is the evaluation and then comes the suitability analysis. So whenever you're talking about capacity determination, you don't look at whether it is suitable or not. For example, you say you end up having five levels of, after doing the analysis you say okay, there is very low, low, average, high and very high capacity. You might end up saying that the aquifers with very low capacity are not suitable, right? So suitability analysis is usually done separate from evaluation. So this is probably something that you will see in almost all planning exercises, right? So in feasibility analysis itself or suitability analysis itself, we sort of separate the evaluation and the decision making phase. That is where your answer. So probably you answered the first question thinking this, taking this into consideration, right? So the answer is actually A, B and D. Here when we are assessing the storage capacity, we do not look at suitability, right? Any questions?
no, please move ahead.
Okay, all right. I hope that cleared the difference between the two questions, right? Moving on to the next question. Identify the correct function notation for the volume of water required for artificial recharge. A, volume is equal to volume of subsurface storage into recharge efficiency. B, volume is equal to intercontour areas below cutoff level into specific yield divided by recharge efficiency of the structure. C, volume is equal to intercontour areas below cutoff level into specific yield into recharge efficiency. D, volume is equal to volume of subsurface storage into specific yield into reciprocal of recharge efficiency. Which one is the answer? Any responses? Okay, so let's look at the. So right now we are looking at volume of water required for artificial recharge, right? So coming back to the same slide. So volume of water required is actually a composition of volume of subsurface storage space into reciprocal of recharge efficiency of the structure. So however, when we look at the volume of subsurface storage space, that in turn, how do we determine it? By determining the intercontour areas below a certain cutoff level into the specific yield. So we need to combine these two equations to be able to get our answer. So volume will essentially be volume of subsurface storage space. So what is that? Intercontour areas into specific yield, right? And then we multiply the reciprocal of recharge efficiency of the structure, which is essentially dividing by, right? Divided by recharge efficiency, which is usually in percentage. So if efficiency is 90%, we'll be dividing by 90 and multiplying by 100. Okay? So thus this is our answer. B is our answer. So in A, the issue is volume of subsurface storage. Either it's reciprocal of recharge efficiency or it should be divided by, right? And C, volume is equal to intercontour areas below cutoff level into specific yield divided by recharge efficiency. Here, volume of subsurface storage already contains specific yield, so will be should be multiplied by reciprocal of recharge efficiency. So our answer is actually B. Any queries regarding this? All right, if there are none, let's move on. Question number 4. Which statements is or are correct among the given statements regarding groundwater recharge? So, this is the topic of concern. A. Artificial recharge reduces soil erosion, flood, and ensures adequate soil moisture. B. Piezometric surface is lowered during artificial recharge of groundwater. C. Artificial recharge can be achieved by artificially changing natural conditions. And D. Artificial recharge increases inundation. Any responses? Which of these are correct?
A and C is correct. I'm not sure about B. D is wrong.
Okay. You said A and C are correct, right? Which means C.
Yeah. I'm not sure about B.
Any other answers? Okay, let's look at what the.
Piezometric surface. What
Sorry?
is piezometric surface?
The diagram will come up. I'll explain. So let's look at one by one. Artificial recharge structures reduces soil erosion, flood, and ensures adequate soil moisture. Yes, it is true. Uh, Sorry, the whole thing needs to be highlighted, right? So it does reduce soil erosion. What happens is when you are essentially allowing water to infiltrate into the ground, we are reducing the amount of, so say you have an infiltration well or something, we are reducing the amount of water that's going to go on to run off on the surface, right? So if water is going to be infiltrating through, therefore we are going to reduce soil erosion. Most of the topsoil actually gets eroded during a flood event, right? Which is why they actually suggest vegetation also. The roots will sort of hold on to the topsoil even if there is surface runoff, right? It will also reduce flood again. The amount of water that's going to be available for uh, flooding is going to be reduced if there is artificial recharge, right? And it also ensures adequate soil moisture. So A is correct. So the second one, piezometric surface is lowered. Okay, there is no image in this slide. Okay, piezometric surface is lowered during artificial recharge of groundwater. So piezometric surface is actually the, you can sort of equate it to the groundwater level, right? So whenever you have the ground and you have the groundwater level, what happens is when you are ensuring that infiltration is happening through some means, right? This surface will actually, groundwater level will actually go up, right? Because there is more groundwater in the aquifer. So that's actually increased, right? Which means this statement is actually wrong. B is wrong, right? See, artificial recharge can be achieved by artificially changing natural conditions. So we have three major means of achieving natural recharge, like broad categories more like. One is construction methods, the other is spreading of water, and the third one is artificially changing natural conditions. So yes, C is correct. And D, artificial recharge increases inundation. That's actually false, right? It reduces inundation. All right. So our answer is actually A and C. You were right, ma'am. Any queries regarding this? Inundation is essentially just overflowing or flooding. Right? So, all right. Moving on to the next question. Match the following and mark the option for the correct match. For ditch and furrows, gully plugs, gravity head recharge wells, and bore blasting. Any answers for this?
Madam, beach and furrow is surface spreading technique.
Okay. So P is 3. All right.
Then bore blasting is a aquifer modification.
Okay. S1. Okay. So which means the
Gravity
answer
head,
is yes, yes, please.
gravity head recharge well. Uh, Gravity head recharge well. Surface spreading. No. That is runoff conservation structure
Okay.
or
And gully plugs are subsurface techniques then.
subsurface techniques.
You're almost right. So
But this bore blasting and is what is gravity head recharge well, na?
huh.
Both are almost same. That is aquifer modification maybe.
Okay. Let's look at the answers. I'll tell you where you went wrong. So actually gully plugs are runoff conservation structures. So let's see the answer, right? So the first one was ditch and furrow, right? So you had answered that correctly. It is a surface spreading technique, right? That's what you said, right? Yeah. So ditch and furrows are surface spreading techniques. Gully plugs are actually also surface spreading techniques, but particularly they are runoff conservation structures, right? So please keep that in mind. So yeah, people might ask, but isn't it always also surface spreading? But it's a particular subset under the surface spreading techniques. Right? Then gravity head recharge wells are actually subsurface techniques. Okay. So, and your bore blasting comes under aquifer modification. So, this is where the gully plugs part and the gravity recharge recharge wells is where you went wrong. But otherwise, the answers were correct. Right? So, the answer is A. Any queries regarding this? So, if you can think about it, ditch and furrows is essentially you have a river, right? And what you do is you take river flowing this way, right? You take a canal out and then you sort of construct these furrows, right? So that please pardon my drawing, so that the water is sort of spread on the surface, right? And then there is a excess water is sort of redirected back. So that's a Dichen Furrow technique. So yes, surface spreading. Gully plugs, I think it's there in this. No, it's not there. They're essentially to ensure that um, water remains in a particular area, right? They they make sure that this water, where there is water scarcity, whatever is there in this area does not sort of run off into the next area, right? Gravity head recharge wells, again, they are essentially subsurface techniques. Why? Because they're wells, right? So your technique basically lies under the surface, so take it as subsurface technique. And yes, bore blasting, where you're essentially blasting through using a bore. Therefore, you're modifying the structure of the entire aquifer. So that's one way of remembering the which belongs to what, right? So your answer is A. I mean, if you figure out P3 and S1, I guess, which you were right about, your answer is right. Any queries?
No.
All right. Moving on to the next question. Which statements is or are incorrect about recharge basins? So we're looking at the incorrect options. These are suitable for lands adjoining rivers or canals with sufficient non-committed water. They should have a gentle slope with with diagonally placed entry and exit points. They should be constructed perpendicular to intermittent streams. And the rate of inflow into the recharge basin should be less than the infiltration capacity of the basin. Any responses?
One second, madam. First one, that is, these are suitable for the land adjoining to the river and with the sufficient non-committed water.
Yeah,
Okay, this is not correct.
that's not correct. What is the issue with this statement?
The recharge basin can be anywhere.
Okay.
It is compulsory that this should be near the river or the canal.
Okay. Okay. We are particularly talking about recharge basins, not any artificial recharge structure, right?
Okay.
This is a particular type. It's not a generic term.
So this is natural recharge basin then?
So let's look at the slide actually. So this is one of the particular recharge basin is a surface spreading technique, which are actually particularly located next to streams or canals. Okay. Any artificial, matlab, generally artificial structures can be located anywhere, yes. But these particular structures, recharge basins, are actually constructed right next to streams or canals. Okay. And the part about non-committed water is not given specifically here, but this is true for all artificial recharge structures, right? It has to be non-committed water. Matlab, you can't take away drinking water from a family and then say that okay, I'm going to recharge it. No, it doesn't work that way. You need to eliminate all the potential uses for that water, and the excess water is what should be used for artificial recharge. Am I clear about this? So they are suitable for lands adjoining rivers or canals. Okay? So A is correct. B, they should have a gentle slope with diagonally placed entry and exit points. So here, gentle slope with diagonally placed entry and exit points. So B is also correct. Right? See, they should be constructed perpendicular to intermittent streams. So this is where things go wrong. So they actually should be constructed parallel to intermittent streams. If you notice it here, this is the stream's direction, and the longer side of the basin is actually parallel, right? So yeah, they should be parallel. So this is wrong. And rate of inflow into the recharge basin should be less than the infiltration capacity of the basin. Again, so logically that doesn't make sense, right? It should actually be little more than the infiltration capacity. Why? If the rate of inflow into the basin is less than the infiltration capacity, what will happen is before the water percolates here, water is going to move on, right? So it sort of becomes useless, the entire venture, because the water is not entirely going to percolate to its maximum capacity and it's going to return to the stream, right? At the same time, we don't want it to be too much beyond the infiltration capacity of the basin. Why? Again, we are going to keep water moving slowly beyond what is necessary, which means the amount of water that could be pushed through is also reduced, right? So it is better to have it a little more than the infiltration capacity. So our answer is actually C and D. A and B are correct statements. We are looking at incorrect statements, right? Any queries here? Alright, moving on to the next question. Match the following and mark the option for the correct match. So we have contour bunds, percolation tanks, injection wells, and recharge pits. Any responses? Okay, let's look at the answers. First one is contour bund. So we can see contour bund is given here, right? It involves the construction of small embankments or bunds across the slope of the land and along contours in low rainfall areas. So a bund is essentially this structure, right? So these are embankments here. These three embankments of land along contours in low rainfall areas, right? The second one is percolation tanks. They're essentially surface bodies created over a highly permeable area to recharge the groundwater storage and flood control in a catchment. Right? So here, the keyword is highly permeable areas, and they are surface water bodies. Right? So Q is 4. Next, we have injection wells. So injection wells are basically similar to bore or tube wells, but they're used for recharging of uh, aquifers which are like overexploited. Matlab, too much extraction of groundwater is happening. So they are usually functioning under gravity or under pressure. So they could be functioning under either. So injection wells mm, is essentially, one second. What is the fourth one? Recharge pit, right? So essentially, what is the answer? P3, Q4, R is 1. Okay, that's a very ambiguous option, to be honest. Because, okay, maybe by elimination. So recharge by infiltrating through the Vadose zone. Vadose zone is actually, if you remember, if you have the surface of, like this is the surface, ground level, right? And then you have the water table, right? Whatever the current water table, and it's an unconfined aquifer. What is an unconfined aquifer? So the impermeable layer is actually here, right? Beyond which, and this is completely permeable layer. This entire thing is the permeable layer. So the gap between this ground level and the upper level, like the water table level of within the aquifer, within the unconfined aquifer is the Vado zone. So recharge pits stop until the Vado zone, but injection wells, if you can notice here, this is an impermeable layer and this is an impermeable layer. So it actually goes beyond one aquifer, therefore can recharge multiple aquifers as in the same point, right? So this is one aquifer, this is one aquifer, this is level 1 and this is level 2, right? So injection wells are actually going to recharge multiple aquifers, and you can see here recharge pits are actually going to work through the Vado zone. So you can see here this is the impermeable layer, right? So the answer is actually C. Any queries here?
No, madam. Madam, in tomorrow's live class, can you cover this modeling?
Sorry?
In tomorrow we have live session. Tomorrow,
Yes, 7 to 8, yes.
7 to 8.
Yeah.
Then in that you can explain some details about this modeling, flood modeling.
Oh, so you're talking about the GIS modeling part?
Yes, HGS RAS or GIS,
Okay.
Geo RAS.
I don't know if she's planning to cover the whole thing. To be very honest, we are also not so familiar with these softwares, right? I actually learned so much about it when I was going through the lectures only. So these are very, even sir announces it. Yes, sorry.
Only concept, madam, not the software.
Okay.
Because last part of this 12th assignment, last part of this 12th.
Right.
It is somewhat, maybe we cannot zoom much more, or this data is not available over the internet somewhere. Okay, that's why.
Okay.
Please to understand the concept only, nothing else.
Okay.
Okay,
I'll do something. Either I will ask, I will check with Jeslu if she's covering it in tomorrow's class. Hopefully she does. But if it is not covered by either of us, because this is our last session, right? What I'll do is I'll make an additional video and I'll post it on the YouTube channel, right? I will also post it on the discussion forum if it gets done, right? We'll either do it combined or I'll get it done.
Because 4-5 modeling, they are just means first time.
Yeah, I understand the issue. Especially if you're not very familiar with GIS or worked too much with GIS, I can understand why it would be an issue. So at least the essential parts we'll cover, and sort of it'll so that we can help you go through the material. Yes, I'll include
because that depends on our background also, because my engineering I have done in 1993. Now I was in the road infrastructure projects.
Okay.
So this is somewhat, everything is somewhat new. The last portion.
I'll try to take a class. The thing is, that's what. So it's actually new for us also. I mean, unless and until you are, you're working on some project that's drainage based or something that's heavily modeling based, you're not going to be exposed to these software. Like you don't use them regularly in planning, right? But that being said, I'll definitely post a video if she's not covering it tomorrow. I'm not sure if she's covering it tomorrow. So please do attend tomorrow's class. But if it's not covered, I'll definitely add another video.
Yes, thank you, madam. I have some another meeting. I will do it right
now. All right. Okay, moving on to the next question. So this is the one small numerical that was part of the lecture, right? So the average monthly rainfall volume of an area is 100 millimeters. The rainwater is being collected in a building having roof area of 250 square meters and a household size of 5. Determine the number of days the collected rainwater is adequate for a building, which is considering average daily water demand as 120 LPCD. If the entire water can be treated and stored without loss. So this is where this is the slide basically as to where the problem was worked out. It's a very minor problem, right? So first of all, what is given to us? Average monthly rainfall is 100 mm. The roof area for the building is 250 square meters. Household size is 5, and average daily water demand is 120 LPCD, right? What do we need to find? The total number of days that the collected water is adequate, provided. So please be mindful of this. Provided the entire amount of water being collected is treated and reused, right? So if the problem actually states say something like 80% of water is treated, you will also have to take that into account, right? But currently it says all the water is being reused. So let's look at the solution. What we first do is, from the we calculate annual rainfall, right? So that will essentially be number of months into average monthly rainfall, right? So 12 months in a year, and we get 100 millimeters rainfall average. So the thing is, the question actually specifically mentions the number of days in a year, right? That's why we are taking annual rainfall. So the answer is 1.2 meters, right? Then we calculate the total volume of rainfall collected annually from that particular building. So that's essentially from the roof area, right? So roof area into annual rainfall. So the roof area for the building is given as 250 square meters, and the annual rainfall we just calculated it as 1.2 meters, right? That gives us 300 cubic meters, which is 3 lakh liters. So we just multiply by 1000 to get liters, right? So then what we do is we calculate daily water consumption. So how much water is being consumed. So this is the total amount of water that's available from the building, right? But which is going to be treated and used. Then daily water consumption will be average daily demand into household size, right? So we are having 120 liters per capita per day into a household size of 5, and that gives us 600 liters daily water consumption. So the number of days water can be used is equal to total volume of rainfall collected annually. So how much rainfall is coming onto the building annually divided by the daily water consumption. It's as simple as that. So we have 3 lakh liters divided by 600 liters per day. So this will hold on for 500 days. However, if the problem actually says, say, 80% of the water is treated, right? Like there, you can't treat the entire quantity of water. If they do that, we will have to, take this value and multiply it by 80 divided by 100. Right? So make sure you take this into account. I don't think it will be given as in the problem, but please be mindful of it. Okay? So the answer is actually 500 days.
Excuse me, what was that 80 by 100?
So 1 second. Here in the question, here they've actually given if the entire water can be treated and stored without loss, right?
Okay,
So
okay.
if so, we are assuming that whatever water is coming onto the building is going to be, so usually building, right? Very bad drawing, sorry. Building, and whatever is falling onto the roof is being collected. However, say some of it is going to be lost in the collection process, there is some leakage in the collection process or in the treatment process, right? So and they say that 80% of the water collected and is going to be treated and reused, then you should take that into account. So whatever value you are getting, you just multiply it by 80 by 100, right? However, for this problem you don't need to. This problem it's just,
Yeah, understood.
yeah, right. So 500 days, right? So the answer is 500. Any queries? Any other
No.
queries? Right. So moving on to the next question. Match the following and mark the option for the correct match. Right. So fluvial flooding, and coastal flooding. So these are very basic. Any responses? We'll just look at the slide. So here we see that flooding actually occurs when a river overflows its bank. So it's connected to a water body, right? And then pluvial flooding is when it when a rainfall event creates a flood which is not related to an overflowing water body, right? So that's the usual kind of urban flooding that happens in many areas, right? Then coastal flooding. It occurs when due to storm surge, which is basically high winds in the sea pushes the seawater to coast, or a tidal surge. So the answer is actually P3. So fluvial flooding is related to the river. Fluvial flooding is when it's not created by an overflowing water body, and coastal flooding is through storm surge. Right? Any queries?
No.
So, Miss Supriya, actually, the for the problem uh, is this
I was not calculating for annual. I was
okay?
checking monthly.
Okay,
That's
okay,
why now it is correct.
all right.
I got the answer.
Anyway, so that's for the week. Any
Question
general
number
queries? Sorry.
question number 3 of the assignment. Actually, I have done, but I'm not very much sure what
I This is
is.
a very generic question. GIS cannot be used to which analysis with respect to stormwater management modeling, hazard prediction, flow exchange, hydrological analysis. One second, let me check the answers that they've provided us. Okay, I found the slide. So what they're trying to say is, what are the options? So GIS cannot be used to which analysis with respect to stormwater management and modeling. So the answer is actually B, right? So hazard prediction essentially happens because you are able to figure out which node is overflowing and which
Actually,
node is.
I also marked flow exchange only.
Yeah, yeah. So the answer supposedly is from this slide, right?
Yeah, explain. That was luckily I got the right answer, but explain me. I'm not
So what
really good.
GIS actually doesn't allow you to model for this aspect, flow exchange aspect, right?
Yeah.
So what happens is what you can model only unidirectionally, right? So whenever there is a flow exchange, matlab, say one node is overflowing, but simultaneously there is an exchange of flow taking in. That part cannot be done in this software, right? SWMM can be used for flow modeling, but not GIS. So it's a limitation of using GIS in general.
Yeah. Correct.
So that's about it. I mean, it's just it's more like you have to remember the content of the slide almost to the T.
Okay.
So, right.
Okay.
So essentially, this statement doesn't cover that. So you can use these, but not flow exchange, and therefore answer it. But you have answered it correct. All right. Any other queries?
No, thank you so much.
All right. So we have actually come to the end of 12 weeks of live interaction. Hopefully, I'll post another video giving basics of modeling and so that it helps you understand the last couple of slides.
Assignments are not uploaded. I think after 8, 9, 10,
9,
11.
10 is not uploaded.
No.
Okay, I'm actually surprised. I thought 9, 10 was uploaded. Okay, I'll
No,
probably
I
ask.
raised a query as well. 9, 10 is not uploaded.
Okay, I'll talk to them tonight
Yeah,
because your
sure.
exam is coming up too. So, right. But even in assignment 9, there is actually a minor doubt because of the CIA question, right? So,
Okay, but upload soon because we don't have much time.
yeah,
It's
yeah, I
only
get it. I get it. I'm
one,
actually
2 weeks.
surprised.
2 weeks been a year. It is less than 2 weeks.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, okay. I see 7 and 8. I don't see. All right. I'll ask them to upload the rest of the assignment solutions, right? So that you
Yeah,
can
yeah.
cross check. All right. Any other queries?
No, thank you.
All right, then. All the best for your exams. Do well. We hope. I hope I was useful, not just for the assignment questions, but in general as well. Uh,
Yeah, yeah,
thank,
it was very useful
thank you,
session.
thank you. Because I mean, I try to incorporate a couple of resources as well. Thank you, Mr. Ashwin. So, I mean, in general, planning is more about knowing how you're going to tackle it. Every time we are given a particular planning assignment, we haven't already learned how to deal with it, right? We actually go into, okay, how do we do this particular aspect? So it's more of hands-on learning. So, but however, the course actually covers in detail the fundamentals that you need to know to be able to figure out what to do, right? If you are actually involved in a planning exercise. So it sort of is a very foundational course. I hope the course was also very useful. All right then. Take care, all of you. It was a good journey. Thank you
Thank you.
for taking the course and being patient with my sessions as well. Thank you. Thank you.